I've got something to tell you guys. I made a Jordan Fabrics quilt. Let me show it to you. Look at this. Look at this. Now let me take you through how I did it. Hi guys, and welcome back to Crafty Quilting Designs. I hope you're well and having a fantastic day. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you stopped by, and for those of you who are always supporting and rocking with me, thank you so much and welcome back to another tutorial. Now I know it's been some time since I've actually posted a quilt, but I haven't been too well and Carla's been unwell also. So I am here today and the quilt is completed. I did show you a little bit of a sneak peek what I was working on for a short, so I hope you actually saw that. Okay, so let me tell you about the quilt. Okay, so I wanted to make a scrap quilt. In fact, I got all of my scraps out and I'm thinking, but what would I do? Okay, suddenly I was watching YouTube, of course. What else would you be watching? And Jordan Fabrics came up and she was actually making an up square down square quilt. Now when she made the quilt, she didn't give any instructions how to make the quilt, because obviously she uses a pattern by somebody. I'm not sure who the pattern is by, but I'll insert a clip so you can actually see the quilt she actually made. It's called Up Square Down Square. And as she's making the quilt and talking about it, I'm thinking, you know what? I can make that quilt. I don't know what the sizes are. I don't know what the measurements are, but I said to myself, I'm going to test it. So I watched the video to its entirety, kind of fast forward through a little bits here and there, and I was so excited. I got all of my scraps out, and I said, threw them onto the table and started making that quilt from scraps. And you know what? I actually did it. I did it. It is really beautiful. Now the size is slightly smaller than hers because I didn't want to go too big, but in a sense I sort of end up with the size very similar to hers, all right, which is a twin size. But let me take you through now how I actually made this quilt. It is absolutely beautiful. I am not sure if I'm allowed to give you the sizes. I'm not sure, but I will see what I decide as I go along and make the quilt, because she didn't give the sizes. It's not her quilt, it's somebody else's pattern. So I'm not sure where I sit on that. But anyway, we'll figure it out as we go. But it's made from scraps. She used a jelly roll and you can see how she actually did it. It's really beautiful. But as I said, I was like, I'm gonna make a scrap quilt from that pattern that she's actually talking about. As I said, she didn't give the sizes at all, but thumbs up to me for actually, well, at least I think I figured it out. It may not be exactly her sizes, but it's close enough. It's good enough. All right, so let's get started. Let me show you what I did and hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. Right, it's like I said in the intro, today we're going to do a Jordan Fabrics quilt. Okay, so I have my scraps on the table here, which I will take you through how to make the block. But let me show you the blocks before I actually do that. So you're going to be needing some background fabric, which I've used in this white, and some accent fabric, which I'm going to be using is purple. So this is the block. This is one of the blocks that you're going to make. Now what I want you to bear in mind is that for this particular block, I would like you to choose light colors. Now because I am using scraps, I don't obviously have a jelly roll. Okay, so it's not a collection of colors that contrast each other. So the idea is to take all of your scraps out of your basket, throw it on the table, and the scraps that you actually need is 2.5 strips. Okay, now I reckon you can get those strips from your binding, leftover binding, or from when you're actually cutting off the excess once you've basted the quilt. All right, so I expect that most of us will have that at some point. Now I do have quite a few excuse me, obviously because I make quilts each week. I've also have some like these, some 10-inch strips that I've actually cut down for a quilt ages ago that I never did use. All right, so as I said in the intro, I was going to make a Scrappy quilt. When I saw her video, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. So let me take you through how I actually made this. All right, so, but as I said, bear in mind that I have decided, you can change it around if you choose to, but I have decided for this particular block where I use my 2.5 strips for the pattern here, and I use my background color as white for this particular one. Okay, the other block is this one here, and you can see my purple accent. Now for this particular purple accent, I haven't got any more left. I do have probably a couple more to make a few more squares around it. So basically the blocks are a square and a square and a square, basically, all right? But what I am going to do is choose an accent fabric that is very similar. I'm not too concerned as to whether or not it has the white spot in it, as long as the color purple is very close. That's what I'm aiming at, all right? But you also need that white square in the pattern, and that is where that other background fabric comes in again within the quilt. And again, you need your 2.5-inch strips. Now, I can bet you anything that's my husband, so let me answer that and I'll get back to you. All right, guys, so let's go back to what we were talking about. So the next one, I think I started showing you about the purple, and I said that I am going to try and get the purple as close as possible. As I said, I'm not really bothered whether or not I have the white spot, but as long as the color is quite close. Now, when I made this particular one, I tried different 2.5 around the square and the square, all right? And the reason why I'm telling you this is so that you can just avoid the pitfalls if you want, or choose the 2.5 strips as much as possible, in the sense that you can get it all the way around. And what I mean by that is getting that dark color all the way around. Okay, now remember, these are the darks, is what I'm considering them as, because I don't want the quilt to be just a missy matchy. Okay, I want some controlled, even though it's a scrappy quilt. I want, when it's finished, that I will trick the person thinking it's an ordinary quilt. It is not a scrappy quilt. So hence the reason why I am using the white, and I think that's why she also used the white. But at the same time, she was using a brand new jelly roll, and to bring the whole thing together, right? What I am going to say though is, this is what I did. Okay, now I only made 2 of this, and to be honest, I may not choose to use this block because I don't like the fact that it has the 2 separate. Now, I thought it would have worked, but I think it changes the design of the block. Whereas if I look at this one, I can see that consistent color all the way around for the square and the square. Okay, now it is okay if you're happy to do that, that's fine. But I think I will not use these. I only made 2, and I thought, as I said, it was going to be all right. But once I finished, made it, and I went ahead and did another one stupidly. But when I put it on my design wall and stepped back, I just felt it wasn't connecting with me. So I'm not going to use these. I may just unpick it and use the square and the square and change the outer ones, all right? But you need to consider, for this one, lights. Now, I chose a bit of mediums and lights for the white background fabric, okay? And I've also used this one as well. Now, because I want the contrast to be there, okay? So I'm going to take you through now what I actually did. Now, what I would say to you is, if you've got scraps of fabric such as this size, this too can work, okay? Or even this size, all right? As long as you can get the fabric to go all the way around. That's the most important thing. I'm looking down at my mess on the table here, okay? Get that 2.5 to go all the way around, and also as long as you've got enough to get that second square for the other block. That's the most important thing, okay? So let's get started, and I'll show you how to make the block. Now, Jordan Fabrics, she made a twin size. I'm not going to go that big. I'm not sure what size is the next one down. I can't remember. But I'm only going to do 32 blocks in total. I haven't laid it out or anything because I'm still making the blocks. But obviously, I will share all of those details with you. So then you don't have to bust your brains to figure it out. Leave that to me. All right, guys, let's get started. I'm only playing around. Let's get started. Let me show you the mess. I mean, it's a proper mess, but I will definitely say, get all of your scraps on the table, separate them into lights and darks and mediums. So that way it's easier. Cut them down into 2.5 and iron them, okay? Now, once I have made the blocks, I haven't ironed them as yet. I will do that later. I prefer to get everything done and then do the one-step process. So this done, I've made the blocks, and then I've ironed them, and then obviously lay them out, stitch them together. Now, she also did hers on point, and we're going to do it exactly. The only thing that's going to be different is that we are going to challenge ourselves by using scraps and making the quilt smaller. That's the only two different things, okay? And I guess I don't know her sizes because she did not share the sizes. I just figured it out. Well, I think I did. All right, guys, let's get going on this quilt. My apologies, guys. I accidentally deleted the clip for this particular part. Nevertheless, I will put all of the sizes that I use to make my quilt in the description box down below so that it helps you to help you create yours. All right, so I went ahead now and laid the blocks out, and this is what it looks like. So the quilt is going to be on point, and as you can see, where the white background comes in to actually lift and to help contrast all of the colors. Now, as you can see as well, with all of the 2.5 strips for the colored blocks, where I've used all of the darks, you can see that's really popping against the white background fabric. All right, and I've also added the setting triangles to the end to help fill in those spots. Now, I started with the white to make it the quilt on point, and as I can see, I've laid 4 at the bottom, followed by 3 of the darks. Okay, you can see here where I spoke about using the accent color, where I had the white purple, and when I ran out, I got another color of purple very close to it. So standing back, you don't really see that different color purple shade. Okay, the only block that I'm a little bit unsure about is the yellow block here, but in a sense it does add a little bit of varied contrast color to it. It doesn't stand out too much, it doesn't pop too much, meaning it's not isolated from the whole quilt top as it is, but I think it works. All right, now to lay it out on point, all you really need to do is add your setting triangles to the end with your first block here. So that is row 1. This is row 2. Here, when I'm counting the row 2s, I'm including these setting triangles here, the side setting triangles. All right, and as usual, nothing changes. You are going to sew front sides together with all of them. Okay, once you have done all of the rows together, then of course you will then complete it as a whole quilt top as normal. Now, the only thing to add is the corner triangles, and I'm just going to slide this in here. And of course, I will give you all the sizes, so don't worry about that. And that is what it looks like. So then it actually helps to create the corner there so it's nice and even. So then the block, or the quilt top in this case, is all squared together. All right. So I'm going to get this all stitched together, and then we're going to add the borders. But I think so far, for a scrappy quilt, is coming together really beautifully. All right, so let's get started on that and adding the borders. All right, so I quickly wanted to show you how to get started. Remember, you are going to take this row by row, and you're going to collect each of your block individually, place them on your sewing area so that you don't get the blocks confused. I mean, at the end of the day, you would know your layout, but just remember to pick up the blocks in the correct layout that you had already done before. There's no point mixing it all up, isn't it? So you're going to sew first triangle. So these are your side setting triangles, just as this one here. So all I did was put them front sides together like so, and I just added a seam there. Okay, same on this side also, and just added that seam there. So once that was done, I then opened it back out, and you will have the excess at the end down there, and that is correct. So please don't think that that's incorrect. I always do add a little bit extra when I am doing certain triangles. For me, I just prefer to be slightly bigger. I prefer to waste this little bit here than to cut it smaller, and then I'm trying to figure it out all out. So I think sometimes you just gotta waste a little bit of fabric to get to ease of mind of sewing the whole blocks together. Now this is the corner here that I'm adding now, and you're going to do the same thing. You are going to flip it over, sew it front sides together, and then obviously it will then lay on top from this end all the way down there using a 1/4 inch seam, and you will then have your first corner completed for the quilt. And then of course you would move on to the second row. So I will sew the second row, and then I will show it to you so that you know what to do moving forward. Now I know sometimes it does get a little bit tricky, especially if you're a beginner quilter, when it comes to doing a quilt on point. So hence the reason why I'm taking the steps through a little bit more detail for you. Alright, so this is the second row sewn together now. Done the same thing, folded front sides together, but your second row now consists of 3 of your blocks, whereas the first row was 1 block followed by 2 of the set in triangles. This one has 4, so when I say 4 I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my apologies. And so you have your 2 set in triangles at the end, followed by your 3 of your blocks. Okay, so again, front sides together, just sew them together, and that's what happens. Okay, so then now what you're going to do is then add this to the first row, to the second row, but I would encourage you to line these up together here. So you're looking at these points, these 2 intersections here, to line up properly so that you can sew them together. That is it basically. And so for this one here as well, if it doesn't line up, I wouldn't make a big deal about it. To be honest, it's not neither here or there, because remember the white is the background fabric, so that's not going to show up. Okay, you will have some excess at the ends here, but once the whole quilt top is sewn together, you will then just trim the whole thing so that it's a lovely square or rectangle, whatever size the quilt top turns out to be, before you start adding your borders. So always remember, if you know you need to trim the quilt top so that it's straight before you start adding the borders. Okay, so that I'm going to continue, so the whole thing together, and the next you'll see is the whole quilt top. All right. Alright guys, so I have now completed this quilt. So I am going to open it up. I'll give you a quick sneak peek here, and I'm going to put Jordan's one up on the screen as I'm speaking right now, so you can have a mental picture of what it actually looks like. Tell me if I actually achieved making her quilt without her pattern, without her instructions, sizes, etc. Alright, so have a look at my one now. So this is what it looks like. It's just on the table here, so I will open it up properly so you can have a good look at it. So let's go do that now. Alright guys, so this is what it looks like in its fullest. So you can see it looks absolutely gorgeous, really big. It's a twin size. Her size came up as 78 by 91. My size is 70 by 93. Looks really gorgeous. I do love the accent color of all of the purple all around the blocks, and as she said and described in her quilt, that the white background was actually receding and the more colorful squares were actually popping, which I think it does demonstrate. This is a scrappy quilt. I am going to say it again. This is a scrappy quilt, guys. If I can do this, you can do this. It is absolutely gorgeous, really gorgeous. And I use white thread for the quilting, and you can see all of the textures. Now, the quilting technique I used was feathers all over this, and you can see that very much on the blue fabric here, which is absolutely gorgeous. I do love the fact that I use the purple, the smaller purple border there, contrasting with the white. Finish off with the blue and a very light floral blue binding. looks really, really good, guys. I'm really, really impressed with this. It just again shows you what scraps can do. Really beautiful. I'm going to go in closer so you can see the quilting. As I said, it was literally feathers all over. Some of them I did a little bit of swirl here and there when I wanted to actually change course for the quilting. So if I wanted to go left or right, then I would actually do a little swirl to change direction. But other than that, it was literally feathers all over. I am so in love with this quilt. I would urge you to definitely try and make one. And remember, I didn't have a pattern. I just worked out what the sizes were when she made the quilt. Isn't this fantastic, guys? It is so beautiful. So, so beautiful. So gorgeous. I can't believe how lovely it looks. Really beautiful. Now on the back, I did exactly what she did, but I did not use the scraps because I didn't have any more of the 2.5 scraps. So I'm going to turn the whole thing over so you can actually see what it looked like. So this is the back. So a very pastel floral and flower print at the back. Very simplistic, nothing too fussy. I did use a white thread again for the back of the quilting, but you really can't see it. Well, I think it's a glossy thread as well that actually you can see it, however, on the joining that I did for the backing. Now when she did hers, she used scraps. This is what I had left over from the borders, so I just used it at the back to join the two fabrics together. But I think it works and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful quilt, guys. Really, really beautiful. And again, you can see all of the swirls and turns of the feather printing on this. I would admit this did take some time to quilt. It is a huge quilt and it did take a week to actually complete. And I only did quilting roughly for an hour. Okay, but nevertheless, guys, I'll turn it back over at the front so you can see what it looks like. Alright, so this is the front again. So I just really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys. I had fun actually working out the pattern for this and just really using my creativity, to be honest. It's such a beautiful quilt and it is a free quilt. It literally is, because all of these are scraps. It literally, even the background fabric is what I already had in my stash and what I use. It doesn't take long to compile. However, if you do make a big quilt, it will take you some time to actually quilt it. But I absolutely love it. I do feel that all of the colors had complement each other, even though it is not a jelly roll. I chose my scraps wisely, and a few of them I did repeat. As you can see, the blue stars here, it's there again, which I think is fine because I really wanted to sort of throw that in. I didn't want to have one-offs. But the yellow here that I was a bit concerned about, it's fine. I thought it was a bit too strong, but I think it works, really. I think I love it so much. It's such a beautiful quilt, and I still can't get over its blooming scraps. Alright guys, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like and subscribe.